I have been fixing engines my entire career, and in that time, the one thing that never changes and the one truth that holds up across every car, every brand, every engine size is this. The difference between an engine that dies young and an engine that runs forever is almost never about the car. It is about the habits of the person driving it. Today, I am going to share with you the exact habits I follow in my own workshop, the methods I use, the things I check, the things I listen for, simple, professional, and proven. If you apply even half of what I'm about to tell you, your engine will thank you for years. Stay until the end, because the last technique is the one most people completely overlook, and it might be the most effective one I know. Let me start with the cold start. This is where more damage is done to engines than almost any other moment in their life, and most drivers have no idea it is happening. When your engine sits overnight, oil drains down due to gravity and collects in the oil pan at the bottom of the engine. Every moving surface above, the camshafts, the upper bearings, the valve train, the timing components, they are left with only a thin residual film of oil on them. The moment you start the engine, the oil pump begins working immediately to push oil back up to those surfaces. But it takes time, anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds before full oil pressure is established throughout the entire engine. In those seconds, metal is moving against metal with very little protection between them. Now most people start the engine and drive away within 30 seconds. That means the engine is under load, accelerating, climbing RPM, before oil has even reached the top end. Do this every day for years, and the cumulative wear is significant. I have torn apart enough engines to see this damage clearly. The surfaces tell the story every time. The fix is simple. Start the engine. Wait 60 seconds before you move. Do not rev it. Do not put it in gear and creep forward. Let it sit and idle while the oil pressure builds and circulates properly throughout the engine. This one habit, practiced consistently every single morning, reduces cold start wear dramatically. It costs you nothing except 60 seconds of patience. In my workshop, this is not optional. It is the first rule. The second thing I want to address is oil, specifically how most people misunderstand the oil change interval and what that misunderstanding costs them. The service interval on your sticker is a generalized number. It was not calculated for your specific driving pattern, your specific climate, or your specific road conditions. It is an average, and averages are wrong for most individual situations. If you drive primarily in the city, short trips, heavy traffic, lots of stopping, your oil degrades significantly faster than a highway driver covering the same mileage. Short trips especially are hard on oil because the engine never reaches full operating temperature long enough to evaporate the moisture and fuel traces that contaminate the oil over time. So instead of relying blindly on a mileage number, learn to read the oil itself. Pull out the dipstick and wipe it on a white cloth. Look at the color in natural light. Clean oil is amber to light brown and slightly translucent. Degraded oil is dark brown to black, fully opaque, and often has a sharp, burnt odor. If your oil looks like that, it does not matter what the sticker says. Change it. Beyond the full change, I also practice regular top-ups between services. Every 1,500 to 2,000 kilometers, I check the oil level and add a small amount of fresh oil if needed, even when the level is still acceptable. This serves two purposes. It keeps the volume at the optimal level, which maintains oil pressure and film strength. And it continuously introduces fresh additive chemistry into the system, diluting the degraded oil already in the engine. Over time, this keeps the oil's protective properties significantly higher than simply running it to the full change interval without any attention. It is a small effort with a meaningful impact on internal engine cleanliness. Now let me talk about coolant, because this is one of the most neglected systems I see in my workshop, and the repairs it leads to when ignored are among the most expensive ones I write up. Coolant does two things. It manages engine temperature, and it protects the internal metal surfaces of your cooling system from corrosion. Over time, the chemical inhibitors that do that protective work break down. The coolant becomes acidic, and acidic coolant attacks metal. It corrodes the water pump housing, the internal passages of the radiator, the metal surfaces inside the engine block and cylinder head. Rust and scale particles begin circulating through the system, clogging narrow passages and wearing down the water pump impeller. The cooling efficiency drops. The engine starts running hotter than it should, and eventually, often at the worst possible moment, it overheats. I see this exact sequence regularly, and every time it was preventable with one simple action: changing the coolant on schedule. My standard is a full coolant flush every 2 years, regardless of mileage. I also use test strips, simple, inexpensive strips you can buy online, to check the pH and corrosion inhibitor level of the coolant. If the strip shows the chemistry has broken down before the 2-year mark, the coolant gets changed early. That strip costs almost nothing. The repair it prevents can cost thousands. To check yours right now, when the engine is completely cold, open the coolant reservoir and look at the fluid. It should be vivid and clean in color. Bright green, orange, pink, or blue, depending on your vehicle's specification. If it looks brown, murky, or rust-colored, address it immediately. Do not wait for the next scheduled service. The cooling system is protecting your engine from destroying itself with its own heat. Treat it accordingly. The fourth thing I practice every day, and the one that separates a truly attentive mechanic from someone who just changes parts on schedule, is listening to the engine, not casually, actively. Every engine has a characteristic sound at idle, a rhythm and tone that is specific to that engine when it is healthy and properly tuned. That baseline is important because any deviation from it is a signal, and the sooner you catch a signal, the smaller and less expensive the problem it leads to. A light ticking at cold idle that fades as the engine warms up often indicates marginal oil pressure at startup, directly related to the cold start issue I described earlier. A deeper knock that increases in intensity with engine load is engine knock, detonation occurring in the combustion chamber, which, left unaddressed, can destroy pistons and bearings in a relatively short time. A hissing sound from the engine bay typically points to a vacuum leak, a failing gasket, or a coolant leak beginning somewhere. A consistent whine that rises and falls with engine RPM, not with vehicle speed, often indicates a failing bearing in the alternator, power steering pump, or somewhere in the accessory drive system. None of these sounds appear suddenly. They develop gradually. Drivers miss them because they are not listening. My recommendation is simple. Once a week, start your car, let it idle, and stand outside it for 2 minutes with no other noise. Just listen. You will learn what normal sounds like, and you will notice when something changes. That awareness alone has saved customers of mine from repairs that would have been catastrophic if they had been ignored even a few more weeks. And now, the last one. The technique I mentioned at the start that most people overlook completely. City driving has a specific problem that builds up silently over time. Because city driving involves short trips, low speeds, frequent stops, and low sustained engine temperatures, the combustion process is never operating at full efficiency for extended periods. The byproduct of this is carbon buildup. Carbon deposits accumulate on the intake valves, on the piston tops, and inside the combustion chambers. These deposits reduce the effective compression volume, interfere with the fuel-air mixture, disrupt combustion efficiency, and cause rough idling, reduced power, and increased fuel consumption. I have seen engines from pure city vehicles where the carbon buildup on the valves was thick enough to affect valve seating. That level of restriction costs real performance and accelerates wear. The solution is what I call an engine flush run. Once every 2 to 3 months, take your vehicle on a sustained highway drive, not a gentle cruise at low RPM. A proper run where the engine operates between 3,500 and 4,000 RPM for at least 15 to 20 minutes continuously. At those temperatures and pressures, the combustion chamber runs hot enough to burn off carbon deposits. The high exhaust velocity clears accumulated material from the exhaust tract. The oil, circulating at full operating temperature and high pressure, reaches every passage in the engine and breaks down soft sludge deposits that lower temperature city driving leaves behind. This is not about stressing the engine. Every well-built engine is designed to operate comfortably at those RPM levels for extended periods. What it is about is giving the engine the operating conditions it was engineered for, conditions that city traffic systematically denies it. After a proper flush run, the difference in throttle response and idle smoothness is often immediately noticeable. Fuel efficiency typically improves as well once carbon deposits are reduced. I recommend this to every customer who does primarily city driving. It requires no products, no additives, no workshop visit, just an open road in 20 minutes. So, to put it all together, 60 seconds of idle time at every cold start. Oil condition checked by eye, not just by the service sticker, with small top-ups between full changes. Coolant flushed on a 2-year cycle and tested with strips, active listening to the engine at least once a week, and a sustained highway run every 2 to 3 months to clear carbon and flush out city driving residue. These are not extraordinary measures. They are basic professional habits applied with consistency. Any engine maintained this way will last significantly longer, run significantly cleaner, and give you far fewer expensive surprises over its lifetime. That is not a claim. It is simply what the evidence shows after years of working on both well-maintained and neglected engines side by side. If this was useful to you, please like this video. It helps more people find this information. Subscribe to the channel for more straightforward, practical engine advice with no filler and no guesswork. And if you have a specific question about your engine, leave it in the comments. I read them, and I will do my best to answer. See you in the next one.